You're watching The Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hi guys. Hello. We're having a day today, aren't we?
It's been a day already.
So just forewarning, we've already lost electricity once and it's come back on, and then had to put the internet back on, and then the lights flickered a minute ago. So if we disappear, know that we love you.
You see us occasionally looking up at the sky with a worried look on our face. Just know that we're just concerned about our power grid, since we are, Texans. That's our weakness.
Power grid.
So, yes, you can get started in
Hashtag big rude.
Very,
very
big rude. So tonight I am Jenna. This is Shanice.
Oh, we're having a day.
It's Bizarro. Minute to Skim It. So, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, all right. Let's start with Murder World Spider-Man. So Murder World is a series that is going on right now in Marvel, where it's like it starts off with 200 contestants. At the beginning of this book, there's 110. And then halfway through the book, there's 64. So they go quick. And I think the main thing is because you had, hold on, I had to write down how many Spider-Men there were so many. There were 9 different spider peoples showed up to just start yanking people out of the jungle. And not in a safe way, if you get what I'm saying. Like, just seeing Spider-Woman and Spider-Punk just, like, taking out people was new.
Oh,
yes.
You. Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year! Yay! Hi. So it was definitely really interesting to see, because so the main person in this story is an MMA fighter, and she's recently been kicked out of tournaments and stuff like that because she always breaks somebody's arm. Like always, just like got that arm bar and just snaps every single time. And then like the head promoter is like, "You're out of here. You're not doing this." She's like, "You can't take me out." She takes his arm and just like breaks it. And you're like, "Why?" That escalated very quickly. And then she goes to a bar and somebody's like, "Hey, I got a question for you." She's like, "That's right, I am in MMA." And he's like, "That wasn't the question. My question was, I get sent this weird thing. Can I turn it on the TV?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead." I mean, okay. I mean, whoa, stop breaking arms, please. And then she sees, like, it's the back door of the dark web is what he calls it. And it's just like contestants. Everybody comes in. Only one person survives, and they get $100 million. And so, like, they had just come out of the first part, and, like, 90 people were already taken out. And then they get to the second part. It's in the jungle. 9 spider people come out and are like, "Yank!" And then she's like, "I'm going to break your arm." And it's like, those spider folks is flexible. Can't break an arm. I really thought Miles was going to lose his arm. And then he was like, "Whoop!" And I was like, "Oh, he just took his arm out of there. Didn't know you could do that." And he did. So that was interesting. It literally took 3 people to try and get the 2 of them separate because, yeah, Spider-Man was going to take her out. You could see it in his mask eyes. He was, that was going to be bad. And then coming out of the jungle, there's this giant frost, just like ice covered snow coming down mountain. And they're like, "Hey, look, a cave." And then so they split. Mm-hmm. So half of them keep going up the mountain. The other half go in a cave because they're like, "It's going to be a trap." It was not a trap. It was actually the one and only rest place and they literally spent 2 hours looking for traps. Just like, oh, look at that. We stumbled upon a rest place. Woo-hoo. And then the announcer comes on. He's like, there are 64 of you, but not really. And you're like, what? Oh, what? That's rude. And yeah, that's how that one went. I'm kind of excited to see where it's going to go. Who's going to be next? Who's going to be the next set of either clones and or brainwashing and or robots is going to take it out?
See, when you said like arm breaking arms, I know you said MMA fighter, but all I could think is this wrestler named Pentagon Dark. Because he likes to break arms, and that's my immediate thought. So I was like, oh, that'd be fun to see him just like breaking arms and him fighting him.
That should be the next step.
Yeah, just have him like, hey, surprise cameo. So continuing the Marvel trend.
What is the obsession with breaking arms? I don't know.
So my next one is going to be Timeless #1. Looks like it is a one-shot. It's essentially setting up for an event that's going to be happening next year, involving obviously Kang the Conqueror. So yeah, I was very surprised reading this book because it's like, oh, cool, it's Kang. You know, he's super powerful, super awesome, and I was just surprised at how many times he got like a whooped in this comic. So,
I mean, he do be looking rough.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, this is obviously going to be something else. Like, oh no, wait, no. But yeah, so it essentially is like a setup issue, like another comic this week. So I really did enjoy that because it had enough in it to make me go like, oh, I am looking forward to seeing what happens next year in the Avengers main title involving Kang and other characters. So Kang, basically in this issue, he's trying to find like the moment in time. Where a point in time that he cannot reach, no matter what he does, no matter who he kills to learn this information, he just cannot get to it and drives him crazy because it's the one point in time he can't reach.
Maybe it's all the killing.
Yeah, you would think like, and actually, there's a character like who tells him like, "I want to tell you, but I'm not." So he zaps him. So Kang is dealing with that, and now there's this antagonist. Well, he's such an antagonist to Kang that everyone else needs to start worrying. Like, okay, Kang's like about this dude. This isn't great. So the antagonist of this one shot has a Knights of the Round Table, like the legend. So King Arthur.
Oh, okay.
So named after them, and they each have their own separate power. So Kang has to deal with that. And yeah, so he's having a very rough time of it. Yeah, it was just interesting to see like this powerful character just get like jobbed out. Like you kind of almost feel like a bad for him, and at the end you're like, all you can feel is like dread because it's like, man, what's gonna happen to other characters in the Marvel universe? Again, if Kang is like, ugh. So
I think that's my favorite sound effect today.
So, like I said, plenty of times already, it's a one shot. It's building. It's basically a teaser for Marvel's event next year. And I could have sworn I saw like solicits for it like ages ago. So it's cool to finally read it now. Yeah, I really dug it. McKay, he's one of my favorite writers at Marvel right now. I love his Moon Knight, and I loved his Black Cat Mary Jane book.
Yeah.
So, if you want to get into Kang before Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania comes out, highly recommend it. If you hate Kang and you want to see him like beat up, I highly recommend it. So,
if you love him, if you hate him, get the book.
Yeah, get the book.
Now I want to read it. Oh my goodness. All right, so this is John Stewart, the Emerald Knight, and I want everybody to kind of pay attention. See that big sword right there? Yeah, that is from his god powers that he kind of accidentally but on purpose at the same time absorbed in the last storyline. So this is the #1 of a new storyline where him and a whole bunch of other Green Lanterns are trying to take out this god that's, so rude. Just so rude. He's super mad that all the other gods have evolved to be with the times. And he's like, bro, like a few billion years ago, we were this way. Let's go back to this way. So what I'm going to do is every time there's a variant or a split off from the timeline, I'm going to eat all that planet. And you're just like, that's like billions of people that you're trying to eat. And it's like, no, it's cool because the variants. And like at the same time, not. So it's like, so like the way they explain it is they have the timeline, and the way the timeline varies off, each planet is allowed to have their own timeline and have variations of that timeline. But this one god was super mad about, people having variations of the timeline. So he was like, no. Okay, now I have enough energy. Now I have enough energy to bring everybody back. And all the other gods are like, I don't want to throw it back. Like, I like how I am now. And it's just like, yo, that's rude, man. Stop that. And so now we have Jon Stewart, who has eaten a little bit of that, god magic from the last series to the now. And he's like, well, I am an ascended being. I am not a god. And the other god's like, bro, sit down, be humble. And you're just like, he's just like, yeah, okay, you're right. My bad. And so they go to this one planet. They're fighting all the people. They're fighting this god. And then the god's just like, you know what? Forget it. I don't need them anyways. And just goes to blow the whole thing up. And so Jon Stewart saves the city that they were fighting in. And that's all they could save of that one species. And it was like, okay, cool. There's a couple hundred left of these, billions of people. They're gone now. It's just gone. And they're just sitting there like, did the dude just like nuke his own like people to make sure to try and take us out? We're just the lanterns, man. Like, stop it. And so he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make all of you a new weapon with half of this god power that I ate, and just bleh, swords for everybody. And you're just like, ooh, that's lovely. That was quite lovely. And then he also made them like new uniforms that were gray and green that were just like really pretty. And then they did more fighting. And I can't say anything else because it's a whole story wrapped in one issue. I know it says number 1, but it's a whole story. And it has an ending. And that was an ending that I read.
So would you have to be caught up with what's going on in Green Lantern?
Not really. I mean, because I'm not technically caught up. I'm a couple issues behind from the last storyline that ended. But picking this up, they give you like the recap, and that's all you need. Okay. And you've got it. You're just like, oh, cool. He ate god stuff. I'm numb. And now he's throwing up god stuff. Bleh, sword. Armor. Cool. Yeah. I ordered 2 copies
of the Miss Minutes.
Yes.
I love that variant so much.
Yes.
I made sure to order a little heavily on that one for the store.
Yeah.
It's just too cute.
It is cute.
Let's see. Going to DC. All right, I'll jump on Action Comics 1050 or 1050 milestone number. So, like the cover says, a new era rises. This is essentially a jumping on point for people who want to read Action Comics Superman, and a continuation of what happened for the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows that. Well, I shouldn't say that because I don't want to spoil anything. But okay. So Lex has a plan for Superman because, of course,
as a tradition.
But this plan, it's actually had to give credit where credit's due. It's like, okay, Lex, that's actually really smart. That's actually really just like mean and nasty.
Lex has a smart plan about Superman.
Well, that's what his plan. It's like, okay, this is like too. Come on, Lex. I know you hate him, but my God.
Yeah.
So like this is one that's like, okay, that's actually like ruthless. So it sets basically this book. It sets up like for Superman Action Comics and the new era of DC that's happening next year. So like Timeless, it's a setup issue, but it's still really good. The art in this issue is so good. It's great. Like there's a fight scene between Lex and Superman where like the word bubbles are like the text effects. Oh, hello, good evening.
Hey.
where they're just going boom and pow and splat. Like how they use that in this book is really, really great. I loved how everything looked, and I love the story, and it made me excited. It actually makes me excited for Superman after this issue, because Clark and John, they're both approaching this with two different mindsets. Clark is like, oh man, this has to really suck for John, and John's like, oh, this is great, I love it, it's happening. So
that sounds very father-son right there.
Right. So it's interesting that it'll be interesting to see how this affects both of them over like the next couple of months. And I'm actually excited to read John's book. I wasn't too crazy about the fact that they aged him up, but I'm slowly coming around to it. But I always like the Super Sons book that came out with him and Damian.
Oh, I love that one where they're kind of like pre-teenage.
Right, and they're just hanging out. So it's like I'm warming up to like older John now. So it's like, in this issue actually helped out with that. So what do you think about the comics?
You know what? We've got some good books to talk about.
That's
we've got lots of books.
I mean, I tip my hat, and it might make it easier for retailers if a customer who comes in and they're like, oh, I saw this movie, I want to read about this. So I was okay, yeah, sure. This issue came out this week, ties into that, but then spoilers. But I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
James Gunn, if he can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, but like at the same time, I've always wanted the movies to match the books. Like I've wanted there to be, because people come in all the time after a movie drops being like, hey, I saw this movie. Let's read about it. And you just have to sit here like, okay, what they did was they took from like 6 or 7 different stories over the last like 50 years. And so it's been kind of hard to suggest books according to the movies. So if they can do it, maybe that'd be great. Like,
right, I guess if it's okay, if our producer if they can go into more detail about that for what he's heard, because
So from what I've heard, reading things and all the upheaval that's happening, is that he is actively talking to Jim Lee about getting comics on board with this universe, games that are in universe with the movies. Like that's part of the 10-year plan that they're doing, is they want everything to be fan-friendly. Yeah, fan-friendly in one big universe. I don't think it's going to be like some people are thinking it's going to be, where it's like, well, if you don't play this game, you're not going to know what's happening in this movie. I don't think it's going to be something like that, but they just want, if this happens in this movie, then it should happen like this in this game, then it should happen like this in this comic.
Kind of like a continuity, like...
Yeah, just a straight-through continuity, instead of it feeling like, well, like you were saying, somebody watches a Marvel movie and wants a book based on that movie. Well, the books are no longer like the movies at all, for the most part.
Yeah.
So you would have to give them, well, there's no newer books like this, but I can give you this back issue from 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
This way, you're getting new games, new comics that tie in with the new movies.
Okay.
It's kind of the plan that I've heard.
When it comes down to like what they did with Sandman, Sandman is a completed storyline that they followed in the show. Mostly. Like as good as they could, compared to the comics to the show. And I wish they would do stuff like that. Like if we're going to have Infinite Crisis, it's already done. Just follow the comics. Like do what you can. Anyways, I have a really big book.
Okay, thank you.
So this is Tales from Earth-6, a celebration of Stan Lee by DC. It is a DC book celebrating Stan Lee. And it is 10 stories. So the first one is called Choked, is a Batman story. And it's not a regular Batman story because he actually looks like a bat. Like his mask, bat. And it's about a guy who chokes people because he comes across a woman. He has a gun And he's like, get in that alley. And she's like, just take my money. Don't shoot me. And he's like, guess what? No bullets. And he just starts choking her. And then the Batman shows up and hits him. And he's like, oh, my hands are my greatest weapons. And then, like, it was outrageous. But at the same time, great. Like,
I'm sorry. Candy elevator. Were you gonna choke me? Yeah, actually.
Yes. It was like, oh no, take my money. I don't want your money, sweetheart. And he starts choking her. You're just like, wait, this is Earth 6? I mean, okay, go off. The second story is called Make War No More, and it's Superman. So Superman, this is Earth 6 Superman, grew up on Krypton, and he was like all grown and married, but he was like a detective crime fighter, and this dude that he put to jail got out of jail, took out like his woman, and so he was chasing them, and then they accidentally jumped galaxies to Earth. And then he's like, no matter how many times I stop your wars, you're never going to develop enough to make the technology for me to go home. And he's talking to Olsen, and Olsen's like, oh my God, dude, you're not stopping the war, you're stopping missiles. And then Superman's like, what you mean, Olsen? And Olsen's like, you got to take out the people making money off of wars. And he's like, you may have a point. So what does Superman do? That is what he does.
Oh my gosh.
And he is not a very good, like, nice Superman. He is take somebody, drop them in the middle of a war zone, and stop the tank from blowing him up, and then is like, what do you think about war now? And the dude's like, I don't like it. And so it just tumbles downhill from that. The third one, To View Beginnings, was a Wonder Woman story. And this Wonder Woman was so pretty. She had like all gold and everything. She's getting catcalled on the street. And then she's like, oh, and then an earthquake hits. And then she's like, oh no, I don't want to go in the porta potty to change. Fine. Gross, but fine. She changes in the porta potty. And she comes out, she saves the day. Then she goes on a date with somebody from the office. And then in the middle of that date, another earthquake / frost thing is happening. And then on the news in the background, it's like, oh, this company is laying off all these people. And it's the same company from the Superman story. Ooh. Yeah. And then the person that's like attacking everybody, she has a spear that, like, if she hits you with the spear, then you tell the truth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was, I was like, oh my God, are you stabbing her? Like, no, she was not stabbing her, but like kind of a little stabbing her with a spear.
So while you have like 20 seconds left to live, I need you to confess every bad thing you did while my spears in your stomach.
Like, I was very like, are you like stabbing? There it goes. Truth spear, go. Yeah, pretty much that's, yeah. It was insane. The next one was called Palindrome. It was a Flash storyline. This Flash was really cool. So she had an all white costume with like a helmet, and then like a rainbow thing, like hair type thing coming out of the back of her helmet. So when she ran, it's a rainbow. Really pretty. But her thing is, she just kept going back further and further in time, trying to figure out how to save her mom and her dad, and then trying to figure out why her dad kept stabbing her no matter what she changed in the future. Because, he wanted to save his wife, so he kept stabbing her with the injection and saying, oh, now you're the Flash, and then he would die. No matter what she did in the past, it just kept happening. So, yeah, there was that Flash. The next one was Behold Necron, which was Green Lantern. This Green Lantern was, what is a nice way to say insane?
Eccentric?
No, he's just insane. Let's just say he was insane. Yeah. So I literally cannot talk about the story without it spoiling, because the whole thing is just one giant thing. It's like 2 pages, and you have to read it. The next one was Contingency by Shazam. It's not Shazam the Wizard in this one. It was Shazam the Demon. And he does like special operations, and he goes in, he's Shazam, and just takes out everybody, man. Just people die at the fair. Oh my God, it was insane. Next is Toiling in the Titans Tempest. AM. I can't remember who AM is. Aquaman. It was Aquaman. So this Aquaman is literally made out of water, and he eats a whale to save the whale. Yep. Is this like if Stan Lee created DC characters? This was a thing. Yeah, that's how it feels. That's that's how it feels.
Yeah, continuation of that.
The Cat and the Canary are about two women that are kidnapped by a supervillain, and one of them owns a cat and one of them owns a canary, and they just kind of like get tired of the misogyny and just like start yelling at him and slap him around a little bit and escape, and then they go back home and chill. Not only in Dream was a Sandman story where it's actual DC Sandman doing like trying to save this soldier from this other soldier who like have their guns drawn at each other, but one of the they're stuck there because they keep having this recurring like nightmare of their worst dream ever. And the worst dream for one of them was when he was little and he was playing with his puppy. He was throwing the ball, and then all of a sudden this truck comes out of nowhere and took them both out, and he just kept reliving that.
Ooh. So when you say like DC Sandman, are you talking about like the original Sandman character from back in the day?
Yeah.
With the gas mask?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But Stan Lee's interpretation of that character.
Just kill the puppy.
The next kill and chill.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the last storyline was called Trust, and it had all of the characters. So not everybody is happy with the way that they do things. And I get it. Like this whole book was just like semi-selfish Justice League. And they call in Lois Lane to be their like, hey, make us look good to the public. And she's just like, but you're terrible people. But like, stop killing people. And they're like, yeah, maybe. And then this new character shows up. His name is Snap. And he's like, it'll be as easy as a snap. And he does. Like, he calls in an old character to try and attack a senator. And they have to save the senator. Like, oh my gosh, this whole book was a madhouse. I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed it. But it was insane. All 10 stories. Just like, okay, let see that top one? That's Superman. And then the Wonder Woman. And there's Green Lantern looking like a wizard. Like, there's Aquaman made out of water. This was insane. But like, in a good way. I really liked it. I hope everybody else likes it. It's 10 stories. And again, yeah. That's that book.
Yeah, it sounds insane.
Good, but insane.
I think it's the last DC book on the shelf. So, Dead Boy Detectives from Sandman Universe. So I was the moment that it was announced, I was so excited for it because I like the writers of the works. I loved The Good Asian, and I loved a horror comic that he had come out a few years called Infidel. So I was excited to read this, and it is hardcore. Like, right off the bat, there's like a floating ghost head with her spine and entrails attached, and yeah, second page.
That sounds like a Middle Eastern vampire, because that's what they like pull their head and like skeletons out of their bodies to eat people.
So
was it like that?
So that was a Thai spirit. So kind of similar thing.
Okay,
which is interesting because that is the whole thing about this book. So it is the Dead Boy Detectives. It's a reboot, so it's a new reader friendly, but it does acknowledge what happened in the past. So it's also friendly for like the older readers as well.
Nice.
And basically the whole thing is about like comparing a Western ghost and Thai ghost, and how different it is like for us.
Yeah.
Because like there's like 4 types of ghosts from like Thailand. Like
oh my
there's
gosh.
one where her back is just covered in maggots,
Oh, I hate
sorry. And you see that. So if you do have a phobia, like what's the phobia with a lot of holes?
Oh, I don't know what it's called.
Trichophobia, whatever. Yeah, you may want to avoid this book. It's gross. If you don't like maggots, sorry, don't. It's gnarly. Again, it is a very, very hardcore book. It got darker than I was expecting, but you know, I love dark comics. I love horror, so this is right up my alley.
I do too, but what's it?
Yeah, yeah. So, as our grocery Janelle, I apologize for that. So they go to LA for a new client, for a new, new case.
Not new maggots.
Thank you. They go to LA for a new case, where there's a girl who goes missing, and her neighbor is like, hey, so I'll give you guys like creamsicles if you guys can like find her. Oh, mind you, person giving them the case is also a little kid. So
okay.
It's not
I was like,
I'll give you creamsicles if you're like,
okay, ice cream man, here we go.
So ice cream man time crossover. So like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll help find your friend. And then they encounter other kids who, oh, surprise, surprise, they're also ghosts. But they're Thai kids. So, and this is what's tripping out one of the adults in the area, because they're like, well, wait a second. When they die, they should be like you guys, like more like a Western ghost, not like our types of ghosts. So something's not right. So they're trying to solve this mystery, because detectives. And while this is going on, there's a witch who's just chilling out, and she's like, you can tell she's like biding her time, and when she's like unleashed, things are gonna go get even crazier, or she might be the cause of what's going on. So if you love horror and you want to get into these characters, I highly recommend it. If you hate maggots, you may want to avoid it. Oh, hi, Will.
I just
yeah,
give me a sec.
Sorry. And you are absolutely gorgeous too. Like, ooh, Jessica's.
Okay. Let's bring it back a little bit. Woo! I only have 3 books, and all of them were insane. Actually, here we go. This was what am I holding? The Savage She-Hulk #1. That word. I forgot how ridiculous it was how She-Hulk became She-Hulk. She got shot, but like instead of taking her to the hospital, he just takes her to the house and just like, I'm gonna give her my blood, and then I'm gonna chunk the deuces and bow out. Oh, by the way, here's some police. Oh, now you're at the hospital. Oh my god. So needy, but like at the same time, so she's a lawyer. This is Jen. She's a lawyer. She's at her office doing office stuff. Bruce shows up and she's like, Doc, I haven't seen you since you left medical school to go learn nuclear fusion and other things. And he's like, yeah, I know. It was more fun. And she's like, what's up? He's like, I had to talk to you. And they're walking down the street and all of a sudden they're getting shot at. She gets shot, but there was like no blood. Like, I think that's just how books were drawn those days, I guess. Man, we're having a day.
A very violent day.
A very violent day. And so yeah, it's the origin story of She-Hulk. There was one ad in this book that actually made me laugh. I even had to show Shanice. I was like, Shanice, did you know the only thing you needed to do to get a motorcycle was your homework? Gasp. I didn't know that. I always did my homework. Where was my motorcycle? Did you?
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom. Vroom. Like, did all of you guys do your homeworks? Did you get a motorcycle? Well, that's beside the point. I did have one, but I paid for it myself. It wasn't from doing homework. So, yeah. And it was like price of $499. I was like, when were motorcycles that cheap? Anyways, that was one of the ads in the book. Kind of went weird. But so yeah, and then she's just like, well, when you hear one of the nurses being like, oh, this whole ordeal is ended for you. And then she like looks at the comic like readers and is like, it's just the beginning. And the thing was, earlier in the book, she's looking at you, but her eyes are drawn like this. Like one eye was looking up, one eye was looking down. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. But then when she's looking directly at you, it's one eye is like this. I was like, okay, does She-Hulk have a lazy eye and I didn't know this?
No, I think it's just how the artist, it may have just came off as maybe awkward after like inking and coloring. I don't think she has a lazy eye.
Okay.
I mean, she did, it would be a bad thing.
No, it would be like I have a blind eye
Right.
with a not very good eyelid. That's lazy. So it's totally fine. I just was sitting here thinking to myself, was this something I never knew? Like I've read some of her books. I've watched her show. Like,
and it is funny because like when the show came out, I was telling my boyfriend that when like her origins, like, oh yeah, it's very different like in the comics than it was in the show. And I'm like, okay, maybe they toned it down so like kids didn't have to see it, but I'm like, well, you saw how like Batman's parents got. So,
I don't know.
I
feel like in the show was more violent than what happened to her in the book. Because she got like shot a couple of times in this book with no bullet holes though. And no blood.
Well,
I was very confused.
Well, I think it's because of that. The comics code, like, or I think they can only show so much in a kid's comic.
Oh,
yeah.
well, should be on every book nowadays. Anyways,
no.
But it was like, I was very confused because then they showed her half naked in the hospital running around. And I was like, okay, cool. So we can't have bullet holes, but we can have a half naked She-Hulk. Like, what is the line? I don't understand. But yeah, if you want the origin story of She-Hulk, they re-released it. It's there. That is it. It's out now. Comes out tomorrow.
Or for $800 if you want to.
Oh yeah, an original one goes for $800. They have these ones for $4.
$4.
See, I have $4. I don't got no $800. I got the $4.
All right. Star Wars: The High Republic.
You got She-Hulk original money? I don't
The
got
Blade.
She-Hulk
Sorry for the glare. So, I am assuming this was a prequel to The High Republic, just going by the timeline that they show at the beginning of the book and how these characters are interacting, how they're interacting with each other. But yeah, so I will be honest, I haven't read any of The High Republic. I know, shame on me. I need to jump on that. But okay, shame on us. We need to get on that. Shame each other.
Shame, ding, ding.
Shame. Double bell thing. So, from what I know I missed out on a lot of context about who this character is, what this character what their relationship is with this other one. Like, you see a flashback.
It's not beginner friendly.
It's not. It is.
Okay.
You need to be reading like The High Republic to understand what's going on, and it's not enough against like this book at all.
No. Please
don't take it like that. I chose it to read for a minute, skim it, and it's like, oh, okay. I have no idea what's going on, but I like it. I like the fight scene, so that's cool.
Sounds feisty.
Right. Very. So it was solid. Like, I like the characters like that was introduced. I thought he was pretty cool, and I like how he was making soup using like the Force, and it turned out terrible. And because he's like levitating like the salt and the spoon. It was funny, and he gave somebody, and you're like, oh, free, oh, cool, like sweet, free soup. He drinks it, it's like, Bruce Banner does a B&E to get this. Okay, that's a fair point. Like, she kind of had it better in the show than getting gunned down. Like,
yeah,
I mean, she got drunk on the show. She had a little B&E. She had it nice.
Yes.
Back to Star Wars. Sorry. But yes, if you're reading Star Wars: High Republic, I would recommend getting this one because it adds on to the Star Wars universe, the High Republic verse, all that jazz.
Does it feel like a one shot, or is it like it's going to continue?
No, it's going to continue. It's gonna. I'm assuming it's a 6-issue miniseries. I could be incorrect on that. So I apologize if I led y'all astray. But it is. Yeah, shake. Oh, I thought you. Oh, breaking. Oh my gosh, sorry.
Yes, breaking and entering. That's why I was like, wait.
Hey, look, we lost power earlier today, Will. I am very tired.
And it's flickering. I don't
We
know
also-
what to focus on.
Were y'all thinking bacon and eggs?
bacon and actually sounds really good.
Oh my god. You know what I'm gonna make tomorrow? I'm gonna make some sausage gravy and biscuits.
While we're talking about Star Wars, sorry, we can't get distracted. Sorry. So,
yeah, we still have 4 more books.
So
okay.
Star Wars.
Okay.
Okay, you can go next.
Okay. So this was Divide. This was not my cup of tea. Like, I'm pretty sure other people will like it. It was it was a combination of kind of political with a side note of outer spaciness. And so let me read my notes on this. Divide. So this was the tagline that I put: segregation in America leads to weird monsters and prison in space.
Oh.
Yeah. So it starts off, this dude and his friend are sitting in a park. The dude turns to his friend and he's like, hey, me and my wife are going to move back to Iraq. And the other dude's like, there's no way I can talk you out of this. And he's like, nah, we're ready to go home. And the other dude's like, okay, when's your moving date? And then the other dude's like, hold on, is that smoke? And then you just see like a city being just like bombed. And that leads to a dude running for president on the basis of hate and any type of immigrants being bad and doing the murder and the kidnap and the stuff. If it, like, he literally, one of the lines in here is, if you're not a straight white Christian, then you're going to get taken and put in this jail that's in outer space. But they don't know it's in outer space. You don't find out they're in outer space until like they're trying to escape and it's halfway through the book. So it's not a spoiler. It's halfway through the book. Like, but it gives off an Emperor Palpatine moment feel, because then like the other dudes, they start turning into this like, everybody remember what Deadpool looks like in the movie? Yeah, they start looking like that. When you have enough hatred, you start looking like that. And then you just start kind of like eating people's, I guess, like souls. Yes. The art was really cool. It has a nice setup to it. I will probably give it at least one more issue to try, but I was not its biggest fan, but I feel like there are people out there who would probably like it and kind of like understand it a little better. But it did feel very like personal to me, because they weren't just talking, they were saying like, how'd the line go? They said people of color, people of Jewish descent, people of like, they started doing this list, and I was just like, cool. So I'm going to start an underground for me and all of my friends. We're going to get out of here and burn it down while we're going. Right, Shanice?
Right.
That's what it was hard to read for me.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those books. It sounds like one of those books where it's like, I understand, but it's like, I don't think I'd be in the right headspace to read it right now.
Yeah. Like, you have to be. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a other book that came out a couple years ago, kind of the same thing. Where it's like, I couldn't. Yeah.
Like I said, I wouldn't say it was terrible. It has an interesting setup because you can kind of see it, except for the space part. Like if they would have taken out the real life part and kept like the space part, I would have totally been down for it. Like, okay, cool, a bunch of people in a space prison doing things. I can get behind that.
Right.
But like the first half of the book versus the second half of the book felt like two different books.
And it's a first like one or two, right? So how do you think it's going to end? Like, do you have any predictions, or is it a book that you think it's like things are just going to come out of left field? Or like, whoa, I did not see that.
The half of this book came out of left field. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's just, I feel like all the people that are doing the like Deadpool skin thing because they have so much hate are gonna start like disintegrating. They look like they're gonna start disintegrating. And like, yeah. So I will read the second one. I will just probably never read the first half of this one again. But again, I really do think anybody else who is interested in those kinds of things, they would really like this book. And the art was beautifully done, especially when they had bags over their heads and they could still talk to each other. Like the way that they did it was like, it's kind of like blacked out, but you see like their face outline. Like it was really well done that you could tell who's talking and what they're doing. Yeah.
Okay. So Book of Slaughter.
Ooh. Wow. I'm excited about that one.
So this was interesting. So I was a little nervous reading it because I'm not caught up on Something is Killing the Children. I'm slowly but steadily making my way through the volumes that I have. But this book, oh, did not care for it.
Now, Sean, I'm sure somebody liked it.
Yeah, I thought.
I'm excited for it.
All it is, it's just basically telling you like more about like the order and the houses. That's all it is. So it's just kind of like going into detail about why like the mask and the colors, why they're so significant, and why they're all different from each other, and what each one represents.
What does the gold one represent?
I mean, like a dragon.
Yes.
Oh, that's the big dog.
Okay.
Or one of the big dogs.
That's the big dogs. I want a gold dragon. I want a gold one.
So I liked it in the sense of like it's essentially like an issue that does like a world building, and that's it. It's if you're like a hardcore fan of it, of course get it. Yeah. If you have like a passing interest but you want to know more about it, then get it.
Yeah.
I liked how they did. I mean, I loved how like they did the passages for each character, for each scarf. Like I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. Like I don't I guess polarizing issue for this week, but I thought it was good. I think you would like it.
I can't wait. So I literally pick up anything that is related to Something's Killing Children, House of Slaughter, Book Slaughter, because I want that full universe feel. I want to be in that universe and know everything about that universe. Kind of like Lord of the Rings. How like you know the entire history of it. I want that for the Something is Killing the Children series. Like that whole like I want to be in there and know it all. Yeah. Head of the House of Schoolmaster. Yes.
For me, the codex part was cool. But if you remember a little while back, you read a Zenoscope book where it has like a story at the beginning and then it's kind of like nothing. This is kind of what this book reminds me of. It's got a little bit of story, and then you read the book and it gives you like a codex thing, and then it finishes out the last little bit of the story.
Okay. So it's a book. It's a book that gives you more information about the world, but I also got vibes of it being a I know there's a word for it, like a interquel, I guess. With this, Something is Killing Children, and the other one, House of Slaughter.
Yeah,
that's what that's the vibe that I generally got from it. Okay. So it was nice to see more of this world. So
nice. It gives you that deep dive feel.
Right.
And I always love a deep dive feel because there's a lot of these books that we read weekly that it's like I needed more info, and so it's nice for. When this, Something's Killing Children's been around for a couple of years now, hasn't it?
Right.
And then House of Slaughter's been out at least this last year.
Right.
And it's nice to get something where you can have that like more information that you ask about. Because I've always wondered, I was like, why are the masks different? Like, why are the things this thing? And it's nice to see that there's a book out for it.
Right.
All right, my last book of the week. I was kind of hoping for Ed Weird to be here because this is his running joke. And he's going to try and trip me up on this on the next show. So, here's the book. I'm about to read you the full title. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, Book 1, Love is a Wasteland. Number 2, The Proverbs of Survival. That's the full title of this book. I said it. Woo! I said it. Where's Edward? I know he tricked me into saying it 4 times on one show. The full title of the first book. 4 times he tricked me into saying this. And that will be the only time that I say this entire, like, look at this. It's 3 lines. No, 4 lines. It's 4 lines of title on this tiny page that I have. It's 4 lines. And I will never say all 4 lines. If anything, I'll say the 2. But like, there, you all heard it. Y'all my witnesses. I done said it. All right, cool. So this literally picks up right where the first one left off. Maceo is leaving the tower. And what's really cool was, so he had a recorder. And he was recording all the things that he was figuring out. Like peanut butter with chocolate. How did nobody ever think of that before in his world? And then he would take the tape and he would put it in a claw machine. And so you see this claw machine is full of things. Even when he came up with the book pull idea. I really want a book pull. But at the same time, the organization just probably kill me. So like, yeah, like book pull. Book pull! And so, yeah, he leaves and he catches up with Mezzy, because it's an E, not an A. And the two were talking, and Mizzy's like, what kind of skills do you have? And he's like, oh, I don't know, all of them. And then she's like, okay, well, do you have this skill? Do you have not dying as a skill? And he's like, I've been pretty good at it. Like, not dying is apparently best skill. Mm-hmm. And then we also get introduced that Mezzy actually learned how to survive by the Wasteland Rangers book. Like, it's a group where there was a prepper at the beginning of all of this, and he left a book talking about how the world was so unprepared because they like shiny things and like anger. And so, and they also dressed up like Cub Scouts.
Oh. Less said about that, the better.
Yep. So, and then we actually meet the Wasteland Rangers, and maybe bad, maybe not good. So yeah, not dying is best skill. And also, he can literally invent anything from anything, because this big storm comes down, she digs down, they get into the hole, she cuts up a rat so the other rats don't eat them. They end up in this like big trash dome of things, and he like invents a generator from the trash, and they watch Saturday morning cartoons with this mountain of chocolatey goodness that he made for breakfast out of the trash around them. And I'm like, that is a survival skill. Like, if I could invent a generator and then take an old TV and just turn on Saturday morning cartoons while I made food, like, that is good skill to have. That is a good skill to have. Not dying is best skill, though. And that was all my books. Your turn.
Well, before I get into mine, I did have a question about. So, have you read any of Jason Aaron's other creator-owned books? So, like Southern Bastards, like.
Yes, I have.
So,
okay.
I want to get into. I do want to read it, but again,
so good.
my background was insane. But like, how would you compare it to his other books?
This one's more fun.
Now this is stressing. Okay.
Like because they're technically like young teenagers, like teenage, like 16, 17, maybe 15.
Right.
And death everywhere. Mutant death. Mm-hmm. It's a Leviathan. A little bit more death on the side. And then, we got to kill a rat to make sure the rats don't eat us because mutants. And peanut butter and chocolate.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so it's my last book, and then we'll answer your question, Sean, really fast.
What is your... Okay.
So, my last one is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. To follow up to their previous crossover they had a couple years back. And I had a blast reading it. It's so fun. And I love seeing the turtles and the teenagers, like, just interact with each other because, they're all teens.
Yeah.
Just 4 of them are giant turtles. But... it was just so fun, and there's a reveal at the end of this issue that made me go, what the baloney? Yes, it was
what
such...
the baloney?
Right, it was just so fun. Like, it was just a book that just made you just kind of, like, just grin, like, yes! And it really does, like, it brings you right back to, like, when you were, like, a kid, watching... the Power Rangers are watching the Turtles or reading comics, and you're just like having like a blast reading it. So it was a fun throwback. I loved it so much. I highly recommend it if you love either one of these, or if you love both. Please read it.
I love the first storyline. Is it follow up from there?
Yes, it's a direct follow up to the storyline. So if you haven't read the first one, please read it because I'm sure it's good.
Good.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I still had a blast with this. Like, it's new reader friendly, which I really enjoy.
Nice.
So, Sean, you will like this. It will be a palate cleanser, I'm sure, to Book of Slaughter. You're gonna love it. It's good. Yeah.
So my pick of the week was actually Once Upon a Time. I couldn't stop just being like, this poor kid literally thought he invented peanut butter with chocolate together, and then to help his new friend out in the middle of the wasteland be like, here's some Saturday morning cartoons and a whole breakfast made of candy that I figured out how to do from trash. And it actually looks like appeasing. It looks so good. I was just like, I don't know why. I feel like this book should be like sad, But at the same time, it was so much fun. Just like look at the cover though. He's sitting there eating spaghetti while she's using the spaghetti fork to take out the giant rat. Like
it's a normal dinner in New York City, I'm sure.
Need I say more? It was mutant rat. Mutant rat. That's the difference. That was my pick of the week. I am really enjoying that series.
So mine is Dead Boy Detectives. I love horror, so this was my absolute favorite, and I love seeing like different how different cultures like approach the supernatural, and to seeing that there's like different types of ghosts in like Thai culture. I love that. One I will not mention because of a reaction. The floating head one, the one that turns into like a snake, and the other one that's just we don't know what her deal is yet. But yeah, I saw that. I really do need to watch that interview because I loved every single thing that they've written, including this. So I'm excited to see how it goes. And
I have a new worst ghost that I'm most afraid of now.
Yeah, that it was very achy, like.
Well, I can go like this.
Like Captain Jack. Yeah. So it was great. Like I've heard good things about the other Sandman Universe books. That Nightmare Country was very good.
Oh my god, yes, it was so good.
Sorry, check that out. So whoever is curating these books or who's the editor, like good job. Like it's fantastic. Doing a wonderful job. So those are my picks of the weeks, or that's my pick of the week. Hey, at least if you had picked that one, you would have been like throwing the book across the table.
But you were across the table. You would have just been like, no,
or just bad out. Yeah.
but no. Which is how we read. Like we read across from the table from each other, and then like every once in a while I'll be like, Shanice, look at this, and she'll be like, that is a thing we now have both seen. And I'm like, I know. And then I just go back to reading. Mm-hmm. And then every once in a while, she'll just be like, and then just turn the page. Oh, I can't wait to hear about that later. And that is exactly how it goes. So thank you all for joining us. We have been Space Cadets at Space Cadets. No, this was Minute to Skim It at Space Cadets. I am...
Sorry, Shanice had a very long day. Is that right, Shanice?
Yes, Jenna. Shanice had a very long day. Oh, please, great electricity deities and whatever deities anybody, prays to or don't pray to. Keep electricity going. It is cold outside, so make sure you guys stay bundled up and warm. We will see you all again next week. Coming up after us is another show that I just blinked out on.
Mint Hunter Comics. That's the last
Mint Hunter Comics is coming up next. We are actually going to jump over to CBSN to do new books this week. So, bye!